Welcome back to Onslow County Today. This is our June Summer Safety Show, and for many of us who live in eastern North Carolina, we know that June the 1st is the start of hurricane season. We're going to visit now with Norman Bryson at the Onslow County Emergency Operations Center to talk about how you and your family can best prepare for the 2016 hurricane season.
Onslow County has seen multiple northeasters as well as tropical storms and hurricanes. Matter of fact, as you look across the Gulf Coast and the East Coast of the United States, there are three major areas that take strikes from hurricanes. And those areas are New Orleans, Miami, Florida, and then the entire coastline of the state of North Carolina. And part of that is the way the North Carolina and the Outer Banks stick out over into the Atlantic Ocean. And with the Gulf Stream coming up off the coast of Florida around, it helps pull a lot of these storms up into our areas. Every 5 to 7 years, Onslow County has a frequency of having a tropical storm coming within 50 nautical miles of its coastline. The greatest threat always is coming from the water, and a lot of people focus more on the winds than they do the water. You know, they're looking at the 100+ mile-an-hour winds and what kind of damage they can cause, but the most amount of loss of life that we have had have come from either storm surge or flooded roadways, people actually driving through areas that they should not. So water is one of the things that people should take the most caution with. As hurricane season starts, we spend a lot of time following the information posted out by the National Weather Service, and they will give briefs out every 6 to 12 hours that will indicate what the probability for tropical storms or tropical depressions may be out in the Atlantic and their development into hurricanes. So we will constantly be watching that on a daily basis to see what the potentials are. As we see storms develop, we'll watch them come across the Atlantic or maybe even develop off our coastlines. Timing is a key issue for information of getting, when we push information out to the public and take certain actions. After a storm, several things that we're doing. One is we're trying to get information from the public. When we start receiving phone calls into our citizens phone bank, if we have a mass number of calls into a singular area, then that gives us an indication that there's a lot of damage or activity that's occurred in that area. So one of the things when we receive information like that is we will actually send our damage assessment teams out, which are actually our tax office personnel. And they will go out and start assessing that damage. You know, it's one of those things is the more phone calls we have, typically there's more damage in that area, and we want to collect that information as soon as we possibly can, because once we can get to a certain dollar value threshold, which is identified by the state, there is a better indication that we can get a federal declaration of disaster. At that point in time, that means FEMA will be coming in. That means we will have the ability to do emergency food stamps. People will be able to apply for more disaster assistance in those times. So we're trying to get as much damage collected and dollar amount collected as soon as we possibly can. People need to be able to gather information, listen to what's going on being published by, you know, from the media, from government, what are they pushing out. A lot of people after a disaster want to get out on the road. They want to travel the roads, they want to see the event, they want to see how much damage has occurred. However, we have a lot of dangers still on the roadway. And these dangers can be anywhere from trees that are leaning that still may fall, fallen trees in the roadways, down power lines, and flooding. Over the years, we've had a lot of flood events in this county. In 2010, we had Tropical Storm Nicole, where we had 21 inches of rain that was dumped in Onslow County in a 3-day period. During the heaviest time of these rain events, we had people driving through flooded areas, and we had 19 documented water rescue events that evening. If you see a flooded road, If you see a barricaded road because of flooding, do not move the barricades. Do not drive through that area, because what you also may not be able to see is that the road is washed out underneath the water. And we have a lot of those events have occurred in Onslow County, and people have pushed the barricades out of the way. They have crossed areas that they have not needed to, and have caused additional rescues to have to be occurred. So we recommend to everyone, if you see it barricaded, don't go through it. If at all possible, stay home, out of the way. We still have a lot of events that are occurring. We're still trying to get power companies in to reestablish power. You know, a lot of lines could be out there. All because a power line is down does not necessarily mean it is non-energized. One of the other issues that you may be dealing with is the power may be off from the power company. However, someone has a home generator that is on, and there's not a disconnect, and that power from that generator is being backfed over that system. And when it hits the transfer, it actually steps up the power coming off of it, so you can actually have a higher voltage. So just because the power is down and the power may be off from the power company does not mean it's not energized lines. So by all means, if you can stay home, stay home. If you have to be out, it is one of those things not to be out looking. It is go to where you need to go, get what you need to get, come back home. And if by all means the road is blocked for some reason, do not drive through the area.
Welcome back to Onslow County Today, and joining us now is Ms. Angela Lee, Onslow County Director of the Onslow County Health Department, and also Mr. Tony Padgett with Onslow County Environmental Services Vector Control. And I thank you both for coming out to talk with us today. Some of our viewers may have seen the both of you appear before the Board of Commissioners about a month ago, where you were talking about receiving a grant and having funding available for Zika prevention. And the one thing that we want to do first and foremost is share with our viewers is that we have no local cases of Zika.
Correct.
And certainly, Mr. Padgett, we've had no mosquitoes test positive.
No.
All right, so we always want to say that first and foremost, but we do want to address it because it has definitely been in the news, and this is something of not just local concern, but really global concern. So Ms. Lee, let's begin with you, if you will, please. Explain to the viewers what Zika actually is.
Okay, Zika is a virus that is passed from the mosquito actually to humans, and it's been in the news currently because of its frequency and common occurrence in Southern and Central America as well as in the Caribbean.
And certainly it's been in the news quite a bit, but also because of the population which it affects most dramatically. Talk a little bit about that, if you will, please.
Definitely. I think there's concern that Zika is a danger to many people. It's of most concern to our pregnant women. And so there are there's information that we're presenting to our pregnant women in regards to their travel to those areas where we know that Zika is prevalent, and we know that there are some harmful concerns that we want to make them aware of. Again, if they have traveled to those areas, there are assessments that we want to provide for them when they come back, health screenings and so forth. But there is concern regarding a birth defect, specifically microcephaly, in which babies can be born with smaller than normal heads, which can indicate lesser or smaller brain development.
Right.
And so that's a concern.
And so we've seen this, as you said, in Central and South America, in the Caribbean, and again, we're concerned because it can in fact result in this birth defect, but in most people, and this is the kind of the tricky thing about how this virus presents itself, most people, as we were sharing off camera, don't actually even know they ever have Zika.
You're exactly right. Only 1 in 5 will actually exhibit symptoms if they have Zika. So you've got 4 out of 5 people who will exhibit no symptoms at all and will never know that they really have Zika. The symptoms, as we discussed earlier, were fever, rash, headache, joint pain, muscle pain, and so some of those are very similar to the flu or other illnesses, and so they may never know that it's actually Zika. So again, we're more concerned with that pregnant women population.
So what, the kind of the public information you're getting out and why we're here today is to first let people know, if you have been in those areas, to be aware and to be kind of cognizant of how you're feeling. But we also know that the disease is not just transmitted via mosquito directly to human, but if perhaps someone has traveled to the Caribbean, perhaps been in contact or contracted the Zika virus, it can be spread in other ways.
Definitely, we do know that it can be spread through sexual contact or transmission as well. There are currently, we know of, at least 10 cases throughout the United States in which this has happened. And so we do want to make sure that males who've traveled to those areas where Zika is prevalent, if they have come back and they have been confirmed with contracting Zika, that they abstain from sexual intercourse, or at least use condoms, and are very careful for 8 months, or 6 to 8 months. And then if they have no symptoms, that they're still cautious for at least 8 weeks, because we know that, again, women can, I won't catch it,
Can contact it.
Exactly, from males who've been in those areas.
Well, it's so important that we just kind of have this opportunity for this conversation, because one of the things that we know is we here in the South experience very similar weather conditions. We know that we have some of the mosquito population, and so the first thing is that education: who can contract it, how is it contracted, and then what are we looking for? And then the other piece of the puzzle, Mr. Paget, really is our conversation with you, and that's about the mosquito itself. What 2 species or varieties of mosquitoes carry the Zika virus?
It's carried by 2. The Egypti is the main one, and we very seldom see Egypti here. Now we do have Asian tiger, which is a container breeder, which breeds around your home in water, and that we have tried very hard to let people know you need to tip and toss this water. You need to get this water away from you, and we have, through the health department, I would like to commend Ms. Lee on that, getting a grant that has helped us beef up our surveillance. So if people see a little trap hanging in a tree, please don't bother, because we are catching these mosquitoes, we are IDing each one of these mosquitoes, and we are trying our best. We're tied in with the college that we can send it off to make sure if we run across something that looks suspicious, we're going to make sure that we're right, and we stand ready to if we do have that problem, we're going to attack it.
Now, you mentioned that Asian tiger mosquito, which we're all probably pretty familiar with, because it's my understanding that this is kind of that mosquito that, is pretty aggressive and that we see pretty frequently. Tell us a little bit about its behaviors. Where can we find it? Where does it kind of want to hang out?
Yeah, it will hang around your home. Anywhere there's a container, that's where it's going to breed. If there is a good side to the Asian tiger, they are a daytime feeder. Okay. They do not feed at night, so you're not going to be bitten by it at nighttime. But around your home, pet water, change it frequently, and because these mosquitoes lay eggs. 15 days they hatched out, they are adult mosquito, they're ready to go on you, and it's so important that you do the tip and toss. And people, if you've got standing water around your home and can't get rid of it, give us a call and let us look at it, because we do have larvicide to treat those areas if it's no way to get rid of it. And we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing to protect the citizens of this county. Now,
that's one of the things we want to talk about, especially because you all do have throughout, not just the summertime, but you all have a means and a method. One, you're monitoring not just for Zika, but for other potential disease that are mosquito-borne, but also just in general your treatment, because we know that this is, here in the coastal plain, this is a damp, wet area. This is mosquito haven as well as other insects. So talk a little bit about your approach to treatment in general?
Okay, we will come out, and if you give us a call, we're going to come do an investigation around your home to see if you got standing water and see what type of mosquito you have.
Right.
And then we will address that with our adulticiding, which is spray trucks. And if not, we will do larviciding, as I mentioned before. If you've got standing water or a ditch that's holding water that can't move, we will take care of that. Because we do have Triple E in this area and West Nile.
Right,
So we want to stay on top of all of it the best we can to make sure that everyone's looked out for.
Very good. Now, Ms. Lee, one of the things that Mr. Paget mentioned was the grant funding that was available, but there's also some funding that you all have available at the Health Department in terms of the public information and information about Zika, and that was you shared with me when we were talking off camera a little bit about some residual Ebola funding that you had. Tell us a little bit about the funding that you still have that you've set aside specifically for Zika.
Yes, the Department of Health and Human Services provided $20,000 of Ebola funding to health departments in the 15-16 fiscal year. And we did utilize some of those funds. We were directed later in the year to hold some of those funds after Zika presented itself, and we were not sure and still remain unsure as to what will happen with federal funds for 16-17 to hold $10,000 of those funds for us to utilize in 16-17. And so we will be kind of transitioning some of those funds to utilize with our, again, our community partners, working with the county, and we will utilize some of that for Zika and Ebola as necessary. So trying to combat all concerns for our community with those dollars.
Well, you know, what I've observed in knowing both of you and working with you is the partnership and the appreciation that you each have for one another's work, because it is about working in tandem for public safety and public health. Mr. Paget, when you work with the health department and you all are kind of working, as I say, in tandem, what is it that you want our viewers to know about the strength of that relationship?
The biggest strength we have here is that they identify that you come in to get checked and there's a problem. She lets me know immediately. I mean, we have a great partnership, great relationship, and we're going to attack that problem immediately. We do not let it wait. We do not take 2 or 3 days to size this up. We're going to do it immediately. And it is so important the citizens understand that Onslow County has a great partnership throughout all their departments, and it makes us all a better county.
Well, one of the other things is, and I understand, is that our Environmental Services Department is really kind of a featured county within the state of North Carolina because of the resources we have available. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
I'd love to. We actually were selected to receive the additional funds for this year for the mosquito surveys that Environmental Services is completing, because Mr. Paget and Environmental Services, his staff, continued the Vector Services Program under the auspice, obviously, of Onslow County when state funds were unavailable. And because we were able to continue that program, they've continued diligently within the community and have the level of services and the experience in providing surveying and so forth. The state provided us additional money, 1 out of 16 counties, to receive that, so that we could provide data back, they could receive that information, and also they're excited because they are also partnering with Camp Lejeune, and so we have that unique partnership as well. So I think it speaks volumes about, again, their services and the leadership of Mr. Paget, as well as Onslow County.
Well, excellent.
And
Mr. Paget?
I would like to say that, you know, all this is a great thing because our Board of Commissioners recognize the need. Without them, the funding wouldn't be here for vector control. A lot of counties in this state has done away with their vector program. And as Ms. Lee alluded to, that we were selected because we have continued that, and it's due to management and our Board of Commissioners make that happen.
Yes.
And I think, again, the top priority being the safety and well-being of our citizens in an ever-growing population. Ms. Lee, I'd love for you to also talk about a very special kind of component of what you all offer at the health department, because we talk so much about the fact that Zika is actually in those Central and South American areas. You all offer something which I've not been familiar with, and that is your travel clinic. And I'd like to hear more about that as well.
Well, we are very excited. We are one of very few health departments throughout the state that has a travel clinic. And by that, we simply mean that we have a clinic that offers unique immunizations for those who are traveling abroad. So if you are going to be traveling to another country and you've identified what immunizations that you need prior to going, you can contact our agency, schedule to come in, talk with our communicable disease supervisor or one of our nurses, and they can help you and ensure that you have identified the correct immunizations. And if we have those in stock, we will definitely schedule you for those and kind of make sure you're prepared and that you know kind of what you're facing, and that we can keep you safe while you're traveling and once you come back, because that's the other thing is once you go to another country, we want to keep you safe while you're there, but we also want you to be safe when you come back and keep our community safe as well. So we are very proud of that. We were able to kick that off last year, and we've had great success with that.
Again, that whole focus on public health and well-being. Now, as we're closing out the segment, if people are curious, would like to know more, again, always about education and furthering our understanding. Ms. Lee, where can people go, website or contact information that you can share with us for the health department?
Well, they can definitely call me at 910-989-3983.
Okay.
And I will direct them to whatever services they need. And they can also log on to cdc.gov.
Okay.
And they can kind of stay up to date on Zika, updated numbers affecting the United States, and information as well.
Very good. And Mr. Padgett, folks who may have concerns may want to contact you about standing water or need further information about what to do about mosquito control, other types of vector control issues. How can they contact you?
They can call my office at 910-455-0181, and they will be sent to me, and I will contact them directly, and we will go out to a site visit and help them out.
Very good. Of course, we also want to remind people that they can visit the Onslow County website, and also the health department has a very active Facebook presence that they can follow you as well. Well, to both of you, I thank you for being part of our summer safety show and for sharing this very important information with us.
And we thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Onslow County Today, and joining us now is a new face to Onslow County Today, Jennifer Montefort with the Onslow County Animal Services Department. Jennifer, welcome to Onslow County Today.
Thank you for having me.
Jennifer, we want to talk about several things, but first we want to get to know you because you're relatively new to Onslow County government, but not new to Onslow County, I understand. How long have you been with Animal Services?
I actually began with Animal Services as a volunteer about 2 years ago.
Okay.
I did join the staff about 9 months ago as Community Outreach Coordinator.
Excellent. And you're originally from where?
New Jersey.
Well, we're glad that you are here and part of our Onslow County family. Jennifer, we want to talk about several things with regard to pet safety, as this is always our summer safety show. So we want to talk about certainly preparedness in the event of inclement weather, hurricanes.
Yes.
And then we also want to talk about summer safety in general with our pets. And finally, we want to certainly talk a little bit about pet adoptions at Animal Services and why that's so important. So let's begin with the big event that we always think about in the summertime, and that's hurricanes, and how we might prepare our pets and our families for hurricanes.
Absolutely. We definitely want to encourage residents to not only prepare themselves, but their pets in the event that we are hit by a hurricane. Things they can do ahead of time. There are several things. Having identification for their pets, which is not only important for hurricanes, but in all times.
Right.
Having identification on their collars, current information, so that if you are separated from your pet, we can get you back together as soon as possible. Also, microchipping. We do encourage microchipping. That helps to, like I said, facilitate you getting back together with your pet in the case that you are separated.
Okay.
Another great way to prepare is to put together an emergency kit. A lot of people do it for their families, but leave out their furry friends, so we want to include them as well. Things like extra food, medications, vet records, things like that you can put together in an emergency kit in the case that you have to evacuate.
Now, in the case, certainly you want to have all your supplies necessary in case you have to shelter in place at home. And sometimes we know we've seen as much as, 4 or 5 days, even longer without electricity, can't really get out and about, so want to have everything at home if you're sheltering at home.
Correct.
But in the event that you do have to evacuate, where in Onslow County would our residents evacuate to that is pet friendly?
We do have a pet-friendly shelter here in Onslow County, and that would be Jacksonville Commons Middle School.
Okay.
So they do accept pets. We want to have crates ready for traveling in the case that we need to do that. But as far as evacuating, you can also have a plan to go to a friend's house, a family member's house, and there are several hotel chains that accept pets as well.
Okay. Now, if we are then leaving our home, what sort of things do you recommend we take in addition to the things that you mentioned, like food, certainly the records, the crate, anything else that we need to have for our pets that you would, for their comfort as well as for your families in general?
It can be a stressful time leaving one's home, so we want to keep our pets as stress-free as possible. So things like toys, familiar blankets, treats, things like that to keep them comfortable, as well as putting together a little first aid kit.
Good idea.
During the storm is an issue, but after the storm is as well. We want to be prepared in the case of that as well.
So we're prepared for the storm. We've got all of our records together. We've got our family go kit, including for our furry friends, and then knowing where those places are that you can go. And then certainly, one of the things that we've found in the last 20 years now that we've had some relatively big storms is then when we return home, fences can be down, things can be a little bit of a mess. What do you recommend in terms of just, again, that return idea with your pets?
We do want to keep our pets with us on a leash. We don't want to be setting them outside before we know what the damage or debris may be out there. So keeping them on leash, keeping them from wandering about can keep them safe.
Excellent. So we're ready, we're prepared for the storm. We always say prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. But what about summer in general? It's time to go to the beach. Everybody's out and about at the parks. We're having big picnics and maybe even fireworks celebrations going on with the holiday. So what are some things that you would recommend? And we'll start with food, because that's a big part of summer fun.
Absolutely, and we're all tempted to give our pets a little treat every now and then, but we have to keep in mind that pet food is safest for them. Not only can people food, affect them as far as, upset stomach, but there are several foods that are toxic to our animal friends. Things like avocado, onions, grapes, and, things like bones, which can splinter and, cause some severe damage.
Okay, so food safety first, pet food for pets, and people food for people.
Correct.
And then what about things like insects or pests that we need to be worried about?
Yeah, we want to make sure that our animals are on flea and tick prevention, as well as heartworm prevention, especially in this area. It's heartworm disease is very prevalent. unfortunately, and it's as simple as getting that monthly heartworm prevention and keeping our animals safe.
All right, and then last really, but certainly not least, is we're all out and about, we're on vacation, and we want to take, our furry friends with us. So we need to remember it's also going to, be 90 degrees outside. What should we remember then?
Absolutely, we love our pets, but taking them out on errands, things like that, is not what's safe for them. The safest place for them is at home where it's cool. In 85-degree temperatures, a car can reach, in excess of 100 degrees in less than 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
And that is not good for our pets. Also take them out for walks. We want to take them out for exercise. We want to keep that to the morning hours, to the evening hours. Pavement can also get hot very quickly. So if you are taking your pet out for a walk, we want to use the back of our hand, test the pavement for the heat, and make sure that they're safe.
All right. Now, the other thing is summertime. Sometimes that is when we see a spike in our cat populations, our feral cat populations. And so the other thing to keep in mind is we need to have our pets spayed and neutered. Talk a little bit about that, if you will.
Absolutely. Working at the shelter, we see a lot of litters come in, unintended litters. So responsible pet ownership, making sure your pet is spayed or neutered, is a huge part of controlling that population.
And finally, and I think the most special part, because we have one of our family members is also an adoptee from the shelter, and a dear family member. Let's talk about really the importance and the beauty of adopting a shelter pet.
Yes, this is what's near and dear to my heart, of course. We have so many wonderful animals at the shelter looking for a forever home of all breeds, sizes, personalities. So definitely come in and find the perfect pet for your family. We also have an amazing foster program so that if you're not able to take on the responsibility of a forever pet, you can help us out tremendously by being a part-time foster and helping a pet on their way to their forever home.
Now, since it is summertime, we may have some students who are out of school for the summer looking for some volunteer opportunities. Do you allow junior volunteers, and what sort of things could they do for you?
Our volunteers are very important to us, and we have a minimum age of 16.
Okay.
But we do welcome them, and they help us out in all facets of what we do: adoption events, walking the dogs, socializing the cats. So it's a great opportunity to spend your summer with some dogs and cats in need and help us out as well. I do coordinate the volunteer program at the shelter, so if anyone is interested, they can just contact us through Facebook, and we will get them set up to volunteer.
Well, excellent. So we're going to reach you through Facebook, but you also know you have a website. And what really is the best number if people are watching and they have more questions, they want to pick up some of those tips from you, or they've got a teenager, over the age of 16 who's looking for those SAT volunteer hours? How can they contact you?
The main number for the shelter is 455-0182. My personal number is 459-0469. So if anyone is interested in volunteering or those foster opportunities, they can contact me directly. And we do have a county website as well, and that's onslowcountync.gov/animal services.
Well, excellent. Well, Jennifer Montefort, you have given us some great information today, from hurricane preparedness to how we can spend our summers volunteering at the shelter. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
As always, we want to thank you for joining us for Onslow County Today, and a special thank you to our guests, Norman Bryson, Angela Lee, Tony Pageant, and Jennifer Montefort, who all offered us some great summer safety tips. As we're out and about exploring beautiful Onslow County, some top-of-mind things to remember. Certainly think about the heat. Stay hydrated. Remember your sunscreen, maybe long sleeves and insect repellent. All good things to remember as you're getting out and exploring your Onslow County today.